Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new week, new edition of Houston Sports Weekly, our weekly sports podcast here on click2houston.com and KPRC2+. As we bring it to you each and every Friday, either you're watching, you're listening, and learning about Houston sports and what's happening over the past few days. Randy McAvoy, Ari Alexander with you. Hope you're having a great start to the weekend. And segment 2, we're going to talk more Astros as they have a big series that begins with the Seattle Mariners. Just about 40 games left or something like that. But we'll talk Astros baseball coming up in segment 2. But, all right, let's spend this first segment kind of state of the Texans now. It's been a busy week with the Miami Dolphins here for joint workouts, and they're going to play their preseason game coming up Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff there at NRG Stadium. It's been good to watch two teams go at it in a practice setting over the last few days.
Yeah, it definitely breaks up some of the monotony of just everyday training camp. And not only is it good to see two teams practicing against each other, I like the team that they brought in because the Miami Dolphins, when you look at their roster, there might not be as much overall depth on the Dolphins as the Niners, the Eagles, the Chiefs, or these teams that were like the real Super Bowl contenders. But you look at the top-end talent at some of the positions that the Dolphins have is really good. I mean, you want Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie to get work in the secondary. Tyreek
Hill's man.
I would say Jalen Waddle. He's hurt right now, but he's a guy they played against last year who's excellent. They just have good players at the top level. They have a quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, who's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league. And then you go on their defensive side. Andrew Van Ginkel had an interception in the practice, a good linebacker. Xavier Howard from right here at Wheatley High in Houston is an all-pro. Their D-line is so good. They have I didn't even remember they had Bradley Chubb. They have Raekwon Davis. They have
a lot of weapons.
These guys.
And the AFC East just loaded.
Yeah, the Patriots are solid. The Bills are excellent. Yeah. And you get the Dolphins, who are this fun, flashy team with fast, talented players. I think it's a good measuring stick for the Texans and for D'Amico, who is very familiar with Mike McDaniels. They work together and to kind of see how good are my guys against these top-end talent NFL players.
So we were out there Wednesday, and, of course, they worked out again on Thursday as well. Off today, and then they'll, of course, play the game coming up on Saturday. But, each team did their own drills, and then they gathered. If you're not familiar, weren't able to go out there, although it was a fan day, but only a certain amount of tickets were handed out there. But you also saw some team versus team, and that was great, I think, for C.J. Stroud. He had Laramie Tunsil out there, and, you go back to that New England game, he had no really big offensive linemen in front of him that are going to play significant time. And so he felt a lot of pressure then, but he needs his group as much as you can gather them, not only in practice but in the game coming up Saturday, I think, to help his growth at quarterback, because there's only one more test after that. It's New Orleans.
And it'll be tough because there were times that the protection struggled to give him time to throw. There was one play Raekwon Davis got through for a sack. You can't actually hit him, but he easily got through before CJ had time to throw. And this is your most of team, first team offensive line. There were a couple nice plays. Tank Dell and CJ clearly have a connection. They spent a lot of time together over the summer. They clearly like each other off the field. And so you can tell when CJ is sort of play breaks down, he's looking for someone. It feels like he's looking for either Dalton Schultz, the tight end underneath, or where's Tank? I know Tank can get open. I've been with him all summer. I know Tank runs around and creates space. Where's Tank? And so that's something that I thought showed up that in a panic situation, all right, tight end underneath, where's Tank?
Right, and they connected quite a bit on Wednesday for sure, workout with Schultz and Tank, because it was all around the field as he has been all throughout camp. That brings up another question, because people have seen the early sample size that we're getting from Tank Dell in practice and had a good opening game there at New England. Was it 5 catches, I think?
565 and a score, yeah.
I mean, who else is really jumping off the chart there, wide receiver? He's not going to be your number one guy, but, man, he is really stepping right in, and they need a Robert Woods to come through and to stay healthy, and some of these other guys that are in this receiving core. But Tank Dell's come right in, and, man, he doesn't look like a rookie out there necessarily.
No, he's a guy that, he's just so quick and shifty, and he creates space well. And, yeah, Nico Collins and Robert Woods, need to get something going. I don't necessarily remember a whole lot of impressive plays from those guys, and how much of it is on them, how much of it is on – there were a few where CJ overthrew them or Davis Mills overthrew the receivers. But like
did that a little bit Wednesday. But
Tank Dell scored 3 touchdowns on Wednesday.
I know. I mean, it's he's been impressive. I look at Nico. I don't look at him and say, okay, that's a number one receiver.
No.
I don't think he ever will be. Maybe late developer. I don't know. But this is year 3 now for him.
Yeah, this will be the 3rd year for Nico.
So this is a big year for Nico to elevate his game and become that consistent target. And then again, we need Robert Woods. They're going to use the tight end. But Tank Dell's been a great story so far. First few weeks of training camp.
How many games do you need to see Tank Dell play well in real games, not preseason, until you kind of say, all right, maybe this guy is the number one receiver as a rookie?
I mean, Saturday's game against the Dolphins is going to be, to me, a kind of an indicator as well. That if he does that, that's 2 consecutive games.
Yeah.
Again, it's preseason, but still, it's consistency. I probably need for a rookie, for me to be convinced a rookie would jump into that, I probably need all 3 games.
Preseason. I'm talking about regular season.
Oh, regular season. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, how many weeks into the regular season where, let's say, like week 1, they come out in the Ravens.
Yeah.
And the Ravens are favored to win. Let's say, everyone assumes they would lose that game, but let's say Tank leads the team in receptions.
Yep.
So, okay,
and then does it again maybe in week 2.
Yeah. And then at that point,
I might be after 2 weeks. I might be convinced.
Okay.
If he could put 2.
They're playing the Colts, I think week 2.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah.
So I think if he could do 2 consecutive weeks in the regular season, I mean, this town will be talking about Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Being that guy. It's all about consistency, man.
You don't necessarily want
but
that
he's so little out there, man.
Yeah, and that's
the
durability.
Thing
is, what if he catches one across the middle? And
Yeah.
that, you always had that concern in college, but he somehow seemed to avoid it for the most part. He gets
I don't
in
think
open
he will in
space.
the NFL.
Well, yeah, it's a different
Like
beast.
my prediction this year is hopefully he will be a guy that be productive, maybe at a really high level. But I do predict there's going to be a week he takes a shot or 2, and he's going to be out. In this league with his size, and if he's going to be going over the middle,
like
I don't see him being available all season long. Just by percentages alone.
I mean, Steve Smith was able to carve together a massive career, and he wasn't much bigger than Tank. Oh yeah, he is slight, and he looks slight when you see him out there compared to the other guys. And so it's kind of like the age-old question, like how big do you really need to be when he's quick and he gets open and he does all these like technical receiver things that are so good.
Yeah.
But you're always worried if this guy takes a shot over the middle from a safety, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So Texans a couple of workouts with the Dolphins, and the game coming up Saturday again, 3:00 kickoff at NRG Stadium. And then they're going to still work out a couple more days, and then shift gears and go on the road for joint workouts. You'll be there in New Orleans with them next week. They'll have a couple of days of workouts, and then they play a Sunday night game, so it's a little bit different schedule, extra day. But I imagine they'll probably be off on Sunday and probably a light workout Monday, full workout Tuesday, and then they travel Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
I thought one guy that stood out at the practice, the ended it with a pick 6, was Jalen Petrie.
Oh, man, on Wednesday, that was awesome.
And I think Petrie is really fascinating because you could hear it today as he was running down. You hear it on Wednesday as he was running down the sideline, and you could hear him just like talking smack the whole way, like just saying stuff. And then when you ask teammates like who talks the most on the field, it's Jalen Petrie.
It's him. You hear that a lot. Yeah.
And then when you meet him, or like I've met his family, his parents was at his draft party, and he's like the nicest, quietest guy in the world.
Yeah, he's a different.
And then on the field, he apparently just CJ was telling a story a few weeks ago that they drive to practice together every day, and the whole time Jalen's just like talking smack to him in the car on their way to work. And then, like, off the field, he's the nicest guy in the world.
That's awesome, man. I remember that because you and I were right when he made that pick 6, and it ended practice on Wednesday. So at the very end, it was the pick 6. He jumped in front, and some fan shot video. I don't know if you've seen it from the opposite end, and stepped right in, and off he went. And as he's coming down past us, I know I saw Hannah McNair, and she heard him, and I think Cal wasn't far away, but she got a kick out of it because once the team went and mobbed him, then they came back and, practice was over and they were huddling up as a team, and she was just looking around, high-fiving people. So even Hannah McNair got into that. That was a great way to end it, and got everybody kind of fired up. It's good to see.
Well, it's funny because like with Petrie, everything I've heard about him from people around him, like off the field, is he has very few interests outside of football. The guy just like likes football and just cares about football and goes home and watches tape and eats the right thing and works out and does all the stuff. And then so he just like eats, sleeps, and breathes football all day. It's like what he cares about. He's always wanted to be a professional football player. He is a professional football player. He takes it extremely seriously. He enjoys it. He never gets bored of like the training and the tape and all the stuff.
Right.
And that he's like kind of your, like as a coach, like the coach's dream of a player, because this guy cares so much. It's like it's his whole life.
He wants to be the best, man.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Hey, some things now. We'll go another couple minutes before we go to break. Things to watch out for in that game against the Dolphins. I mean, it's easy to say C.J. Stroud because that's never going to go away. I am curious, and get your opinion too, how long should C.J. Stroud play? Coming off that New England game, many fans weighed in and media weighed in. It's like, man, it was only 2 series. You blinked and his night was done. But that said, the offensive line, none of the guys were playing, didn't really do him a lot of good. The pressure was coming quickly. But if like Tunsil plays a little bit and some more guys are intact on that offensive line on Saturday, I would like to see him play, if not most of the half, at least the first full half.
Yeah, I want to see a full half. The issue is, and it's not necessarily just a Texans problem around the league. I've been reading a ton about everybody is complaining about this. Apparently the quality of backup offensive linemen in the NFL has been really bad this offseason specifically, or at least people are just kind of starting to notice it, where just defensive lines are just ripping through all the backup line, and it's not just the Texans, it's like everywhere. And so if Tunsil gets taken out early and now you have, I don't know, is it Austin Deculus or whoever else, Dieter, who they're putting in the backup O-lineman, and CJ has no time to throw, like, one, you could get your potential franchise quarterback hurt.
Right, you got to be careful.
And so then, you almost have to pull him at that point. But also, like, what is going on in the NFL that all these teams are struggling to find second-team offensive lines?
Yeah. I mean, Casario's now having to sign guys with injuries, and it's a concern. I think, we're still got a couple more weeks left of preseason, but right now, if you look at concerns on this team, I would be a little concerned about the offensive line.
Interior line specifically.
Yeah, interior, because Titus now is going to be out for, we think, a while. And maybe he's back with his hand all wrapped up week 1. Who knows? But they got to shore that up. You're going to have C.J. Stroud out there for sure. But anyway, I want to see a little more Pierce. I want to see some of the regular guys, and I think we will. Maybe not all of them are going to go long form, if you will, on Saturday, but hopefully Stroud is out there a lot longer.
Yeah, and I also want to see one thing from Dameon Pierce. Eat some food. I think he's gotten a little too skinny heading into training camp. I want to see the 2 extra scoops of Chipotle for Dameon Pierce. Put a little bit more weight on him. I want to see him stay healthy throughout the whole year. I think he has the ability to. Just eat some food.
Mix it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, it's hot out there. You probably
lose
water weight and all kinds of weight
5 pounds of sweat. Yeah,
exactly. All right, so that's the Texans, state of the Texans for this week. Again, preseason game number 2 coming up Saturday, 3 p.m. NRG Stadium, and then they'll move on and wrap up the preseason next week with joint workouts and a game in New Orleans taking on the New Orleans Saints. All right, we're going to take a break here on Houston Sports Weekly. That's latest on the Texans. We're going to segue to some Astros talk as well. The Astros just under 40 games left now in this season, and the Rangers are not going anywhere. So state of the Astros, where things stand, and how big this series is with the Seattle Mariners coming to town. We'll talk about that when Houston Sports Weekly returns. And welcome back to Houston Sports Weekly, our weekly sports podcast on click2houston.com and KPRC2+. Great first segment if you were listening or watching, talking some Texans and kind of where things stand right now with the Texans as they approach their ball game with the Miami Dolphins coming up Saturday, 3 o'clock there at NRG Stadium. But as we told you, we're going to segue in this segment to talk some Astros, Ari, because – hey, man, they're used to running away with the AOS, and that obviously has not been the case this year. And shout out to the Rangers. They've been able to manage a couple of injuries, but they've stockpiled there at the trade deadline, and they're playing great baseball still. This thing's going to go down to the wire. They're still going to go head-to-head. I got to look it up. They either have 3 or 6 games left.
I think they have 3. I think there's one series
Okay.
left, yeah.
But there's less than 40 games left, and the Astros are at home against a team like Seattle that plays well against the Astros. So little room for error right now because you got to keep it tight. You can't go 5-6 games back again.
No, and you got to give credit to the Texas Rangers because first of all, they've been one of the best hitting teams in baseball all season.
Yeah.
They had issues in the pitching side. They had issues in the bullpen. They had issues in the rotation. They shored everything up at the trade deadline. They went out and got 2 starting pitchers. Jordan Montgomery has been excellent for them. Max Scherzer has been good for them. As a Mets fan, I don't trust Scherzer, so just wait until he gets in a real serious game and he'll choke like he did in New York. But then the bullpen, they went out and they got Chris Stratton from the Cardinals, who's just so they just needed more solid middle guys, and they went and got Aroldis Chapman. And I know like Jose Altuve owns him, but if you're the Rangers and you're struggling 8-9 innings, their closer this year is Will Smith. Like Astros didn't want to re-sign Will Smith at his price point, and the Rangers signed him on a minor league deal, and he's their closer for a first place team who's one of the top records in the AL. And so I think that there are some weak points on that team pitching wise, where like Jordan Montgomery's a good pitcher, but he's a number 3. How long can he keep this up? They have who is the most talented pitcher in baseball, and Jacob deGrom out. He's not going to pitch for the next year and a half.
Yep.
So it's up to Scherzer, who struggled in the 2 biggest starts of the year last year that he had to make for the Mets in a massively pivotal game against the Braves that lost them the division, and then a playoff game against the Padres. And then it's like John Gray, Andrew Heaney, Dane Dunning, and then Nate Eovaldi from here.
Yeah.
He's coming back from a forearm injury. So Eovaldi's been really good.
If he comes back healthy,
then,
look out, man.
Yeah, then you have a solid 1-2-3.
Right.
And then you look at the Astros, how they match up. Verlander's been really good for the last 6 weeks, including the couple of starts for the Astros and the last month he pitched for the Mets. So it was really good. Fromber has had a few rough starts, but largely you can sort of trust that he'll mostly be okay. And then what? Like JP France has been excellent. You kind of can't trust Christian Javier at this point.
Javier, definitely not.
Urquidy
not the same guy.
and Hunter Brown
I wonder if all the
been
innings
solid.
have started to catch up with Javier from last year and this year.
I think some of it is that, and then I read a couple articles about it, his vertical attack angle, and it's just like the arm slot has raised a little bit, and so the angle that the pitch is coming from has gone to league average from being well above league average, and that flattens out that rising effect on the fastball, and guys are seeing it.
Well, Astros they just need to play great baseball right now and have some of these guys come through. I mean, every game is big. I don't have their schedule in front of me. I know Seattle's here this
Boston.
weekend. Is it Boston?
After for 4.
At Fenway?
No, it's here.
It's here. Okay,
For
so
4.
But Boston's playing good baseball.
Boston's good.
Especially
Watch out for Tristan Casas. Their rookie first baseman has been good. And then they go to Detroit, and then they go to Boston. So you got to sweep the Tigers.
Yeah, you need to. But they're one of those pesky teams that can surprise you a little bit
Yankees,
as well.
Rangers, Padres, Oakland, KC. That little 6 game between
6 games with Royals is going to be
so 3 against Oakland and 3 against KC. You should win 5 of those 6. They get Baltimore at home and then 3 more against KC. So again, you got to beat KC, Seattle, Arizona. Arizona's been struggling lately.
They have, but man, it's just fans aren't used to this because, as we said at the top, Astros are usually double-digit leads in this division, and there's no panic in August. I don't think there's panic right now. You still look at the national analysts when they, especially last week on MLB Network, they come out who, in their opinion, who the contenders are for a World Series, and on several of them, right there are the Astros. They still believe in this Astros team.
Yeah, and they have the
Astros believe in themselves. You know that, and. So will it be enough? But head-to-head, they got to take care of business, teams like the Texans. So let's talk about Kyle Tucker and the season he's having and what that means for this long-term deal that Dana Brown hopes that happens in the offseason. But You and I talked, I think, last week about
Right.
it. It's not a given. It's going to be costly, man, to lock up Kyle Tucker.
Well, if I'm Kyle Tucker, I'm saying no to almost every deal you offer unless it hits. It takes you through all of your prime years and past, and you hit a certain number, which is going to be significantly above $200 million.
For probably 10 years, right?
Well, I would say 9 could probably get it done because he's 26 this year. It's his age 26 season. He has 2 more seasons with the Astros. So he goes into free agency going into his age 29 season. You're getting a lot of productive Kyle Tucker on a long-term contract because of how young he is going into. He was a high school draft pick, went through the system quickly, came up with the Astros, in 19, was he late 18? He played like 10 games, and then he came up in 19 and played a little bit in the playoffs. So that was 4 years ago? He was like 22. So he hit the league early, and then 2020 was the first year he got like real playing time. He was 23. Right. And then he was really good as a 24-year-old, and he was excellent as a 25-year-old. And this year he's having I think he's going to get top 5 MVP votes his age 26 season. So he's been good for like 4 years now. He's been one of the best players in baseball overall. I know his defensive numbers are down this year. He won a Gold Glove last year, plays the outfield well, hits, good clubhouse guy. That is expensive.
He checks every box.
5-tool player, runs.
Absolutely.
That's expensive.
Could it be kind of an unprecedented commitment by Jim Crane?
Well, it'd have to be.
It's like either you make the deal or you're going to lose him.
Well, but it's funny because I was thinking about this earlier. The golden generation of Astros players has been all kind of the first-round picks. So it's guys that like Crane signed off on, if we believe, to give this giant signing bonus money to. I think Correa was pre-Crane, but Correa was the first overall pick. George Springer was a first-round pick. There was one more guy I'm thinking of. Bregman was a first-round pick.
Yep.
And so Bregman got kind of like the mini extension. Not, 5 years, $100 million isn't mini, but it's not this massive long deal. He didn't get Correa paid. Didn't get Springer paid. They got paid elsewhere.
McCullers came in with Correa, right?
And McCullers was a first rounder, I believe, or a comp pick or something like that.
Same draft, though, right?
Yeah, and he also got that mini, the 585.
Right.
And I think Jim Crane has found kind of a sweet spot where they've been able to take advantage of some of the injury risk. So Yordan Alvarez, when healthy, is a top 3 to 5 hitter in all of baseball. You got him for a 6-year, $115 million deal because you're kind of worried about his knees. Then he's got kind of this hand thing or whatever. And he's missed some time this year with an oblique injury. You're not 100% sure how many games a year he plays defense versus how much he DHs. So you're bringing that to his agency, to MVP Sports Group, and going, hey, we love this guy. However, is he a DH? Is he an outfielder? How are his hands? How are his knees? How much is he going to play? And so you can kind of bring that number, keep bringing that number down. You go to Kyle Tucker, what are you going to say? Oh, he injured. Nope.
Wouldn't that be interesting to be like a fly on the wall during those discussions?
With Excel and Jason Romano and Casey Close, and they go, well, he's got some injury. Nope, never been hurt. Well, what about clubhouse issues? Nope, never been a clubhouse issue. Defense, won a Gold Glove, running. He's about to steal 30 bases. Power, average. Like,
where's that check?
There's nothing. There's nothing that you can bring the value down. Correa had some of the MRI stuff.
Right.
You could bring the value down. Bregman,
he stayed healthy. He's producing.
Bregman, there's really nothing.
No.
And then Springer too. Well, he's an aging center fielder. We're going to have to move him to right. He's had some injury stuff or whatever. There's nothing you can use to bring the value down on Kyle Tucker.
Yeah. Got about a little less than 3 minutes before we wrap it up. Just quick hits now. It's lighting up sports talk radio. Just how long do they stick with Martin Maldonado? Frustrations with fans like, why is he in the lineup every day?
That your fan voice?
Right. But everybody knows it's because inside that clubhouse, the pitchers, and not that Yonder Diaz can't get there, but he's not there yet. The lack of offense aside, every pitcher in that clubhouse trusts Martin Maldonado.
You know who else trusts Martin Maldonado? Ryan Presley's mom.
Oh, you got to have mom on board.
Went on Twitter and defended. Hold on, I want to pull this up. And defended Martin Maldonado.
Nice.
Amy Presley.
Way to go, Amy.
Was just she is. She was not happy about the Maldi haters. Let's see if I can find the tweet, Maldonado. But basically, the thing with him is that he's a guy that guys are comfortable with. He game plans, and even some of the things that Yiner Diaz does in terms of game planning, he's learning a lot of that from Maldonado.
Yeah, absolutely. he's going to be there next year. Diaz probably going to be the guy, but in this particular year, especially with Verlander coming back, all these other guys, just trust factor. And a couple games last week, he got 2 hits, 3 hits, and that's rare for Maldonado to deliver like that offensively. But you just know what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy that's going to hit under 200 and give you a pop every now and then.
Yeah,
you got to live with it.
And that's the thing is, you also kind of know this might be the last year of it. He's a free agent at the end of this year, and they have enough depth at the catcher position that Yainer Diaz can take over. You have, whatever people think of Cesar Salazar, Dana Brown has clearly identified him as, this is a guy we believe to be a solid backup catcher. That's what he is, and we're going to stick with it. And everything I've heard from internally from the players, they like the way Salazar prepares, calls games, clubhouse, does all that stuff. Is he going to hit a ton? No, but he is a backup catcher.
Less than a minute. Gut feeling on the Astros in this next little less than 40 games. Think they're going to catch him, or you think it's a wild card?
I wanted, for the last month, I'd want to say they would catch them, but the Rangers are playing too well. I still think they win the AL, but they might have to do it from the wild card.
Good point. I haven't ruled out catching the Rangers. I just think eventually they're going to hit a wall. They just haven't hit it yet. And if they don't, more power to them. I just think eventually the struggles have to happen when you look at the way it can't last all season long, right? Anyway, Astros in Seattle this weekend, Texans and the Miami Dolphins coming up on Saturday at NRG Stadium. Hey, it's been a great Houston Sports Weekly talking Houston Texans football as they inch closer to the regular season. Preseason will continue, and, of course, the Astros as they push towards what they hope will be a continued playoff run as well. For Ari Alexander, I'm Randy McAvoy. Thanks for tuning in to Houston Sports Weekly. We'll do it again next week. Take care.